And we are contracted with Seattle Good Business Network to teach this class. My consulting business is called Launch Industries, where we do a lot of different kinds of small business consulting with a special focus on human resources. I in particular love teaching about HR. I worked for 7 years as a full-time HR manager, and went ahead and got my certification through the SHRM, which is a Society for Human Resource Management. And I find in particular that kind of focusing for small businesses on kind of helping people understand the entire life cycle of employees and employment and how that goes is really helpful to kind of break it down a little bit. So that's my goal today. And just personally, I'm from West Seattle. I'm I'm a 5th generation Seattleite and a 5th generation entrepreneur as well. I have 3 kids, I have a wife, I have a restaurant called Heartbeat Organic Superfoods Cafe. And I very much understand the challenges that come along with small business, especially trying to wear so many different hats, deal with operations, with employees, hiring, especially in the hiring market right now. It's very challenging in Seattle. So just know that I completely empathize with those challenges, and trying to do everything, marketing and finance, it can be overwhelming. So let's try to demystify any aspects that we can with regards to human resources. Lastly, just a special thanks to the Seattle Good Business Network for hosting this, to Cascadia Produce, and to the Washington State Department of Agriculture for making this event possible. So what we're going to do is we're going to break down what we call the employee life cycle. So these are really the key stages of every employee's journey. I have them listed out here. Now, when I've done this presentation in the past, a lot of companies seem to like to focus more on the recruiting and the onboarding aspects, but I will be touching on all of these, but I am planning to hang out in this kind of recruiting and onboarding a little bit more. However, if you have questions, I'll be pausing at each stage to kind of answer those questions. And if any of you would like to have me dive in a little bit more on some of these other sections, feel free to ask, and I'm happy to. So we look at human resources and the process of having employees like a life cycle. So we start in the center here with strategy and strategic workforce planning based on your company's goals. Once you've identified your strategy, we look at how can we attract employees and how can we be an appealing and inclusive employer. Then we go to recruitment so that we can find the right folks to join our company. Onboarding. So I want to define onboarding, and onboarding is a term that's used a lot in human resources, but I find it's one of those jargony terms that a lot of people don't use outside of HR. So the time that we're talking about for onboarding is going to be the time between when you've made a decision, I'm going to hire this person, and when they actually start working for you and start training. So it's that time in between all those steps that need to happen to gather all their paperwork and kind of get ready for them to show up. Then we'll talk a bit about learning and development, and learning and development is not one of these kind of one and done things. This is something that is, always and forever going to be something to be concerned with employees. And managers and yourself as an owner, just always focusing on learning and development. We'll talk about rewards, recognition, and benefits, progression and performance, and then the exit, the time period where there's an exit, whether that exit is due to someone getting a new job and moving on, or whether they unfortunately get fired for something and quit. There's so many different reasons people leave companies, but we'll talk about that as well. All right, any just overall questions about the life cycle before we keep going? Okay. All right, so the first stage in here is about strategy. So you may hear, HR, human resources, and what often might come to mind for people is kind of that administrative process or those like tactical activities that happen. But in reality, strategic human resource really involves a future-oriented process where you're thinking about and developing and implementing HR programs and initiatives that address and solve business problems. So that strategic human resource process really is what directly contributes to achieving your short and long-term business objectives. So I think that in the past, people thought of human resources as largely like an administrative function that was really focused on just the day-to-day responsibilities like recruiting or managing benefits. And there's certainly a space where that happens, but especially with the changing labor market conditions, I think that this calls for some new business thinking around HR business strategies that include really thinking a lot about retention and how to attract the right people, and providing also just ethical and cultural leadership. So I think strategy is one of those things not to be forgotten. Really setting your strategic objectives is such an important part of the planning process. And I recommend that you try to align your thinking about who you are as a company, who you hire, and aligning that to the organization's mission, vision, and overall strategy. So what is your why, right? What is your mission? What is your values? What's important to you, to your workforce, to your customers? And being able to understand the current situation can also be enhanced by doing what is called a SWOT analysis. I don't know if you've heard that before, but really looking at your strengths and weaknesses and opportunities and threats. So this kind of analysis includes the internal assessment of your capabilities and limitations. And it's certainly a test that you can kind of look at. So really looking at the strategic planning process overall begins with these critical questions of like, where are we now? Where do we want to be? So being able to envision and articulate the desired future. How do we get there? And how will we know if that we're on track towards our intended destination? So these are all the kinds of things I'm thinking about when I'm thinking about human resource strategy. It doesn't have to be complicated, but it is important not to lose sight of these things. So as we are touching on the different aspects of the employee life cycle, think about how each of those can have their own strategy incorporated with it. All right, we're going to move on to the next slide about attraction. And so this is the second stage in the employee life cycle. This is really a vital stage of the model because it is a time when candidates are deciding whether or not your company appeals to them as a potential employer. So if you don't make a good first impression, then it'll be more difficult to attract the right talent to help you grow as a successful company. So the best way to improve this initial stage of the employee life cycle model is to really focus on building your brand and reputation. Having a positive culture that prioritizes employee development and innovation is a sure win for your brand building and great reputation. So there are lots of different kinds of activities that you can do to raise brand awareness, like participating in local chamber events, having your managers or you, if you don't have managers, going to seminars and conferences in your industry to meet others in the industry and also to seek out speaking opportunities. You can become a contributor on websites and blogs. If there are blogs and websites that you like reading, like reach out to them, see if you can become a contributor. Everybody needs good content writers. So if you can write, that is a great avenue to look down. And then also thinking about how your company is appearing on the social media like LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I've seen a lot of companies focusing on LinkedIn, not so much for the marketing aspect like you would on maybe Instagram or TikTok or Facebook where you're putting like product photos and things like that so much, but LinkedIn from the perspective of you as a company, an employer, and other business people learning about you. This is a good one to look at. Next of all, really looking at how do you become known for having a great company culture. I think that the employees remain the most valuable and convincing promoter for any company. And so it is how your current employees holds you in their minds when they're talking to their friends and other, you know, and customers too. Your employees really can become the best promoter of your business. And if you focus on having a fantastic company culture, then you can increase the chance that your existing employees will regularly tell others about how great it is to work within your organization. And then next of all, offering attractive benefits and compensation. Now, I know that offering benefits can be a challenge for companies who don't have the financial resources to be able to offer them. In the event that you are in a spot where you can offer benefits, we'll talk a little bit down the road about kind of what to focus on and what to prioritize on. And if you are in a position to be able to be very competitive, then being able to offer, you know, more money, more benefits can certainly be an attractive thing. And I think that in this job market, especially in the Seattle area, where there's so many more jobs than there are people to work them, you know, I think not necessarily holding back on what you could pay can be detrimental sometimes, where you go to put a job ad and you're thinking about what you would have listed 5 years ago, can just make it so less people are applying. So if you do have more money to spend on compensation, like putting that in your job ads is really helpful. Want to jump ahead to recruiting, because this is always one that people want to talk about quite a lot. So I think before I get into this, I'd love to hear just a little bit from a few of the companies who are on here about what challenges you've had when it comes to recruiting. If anybody would be willing to share, that would be a great chance to hear from some of you. Anybody?
You can just unmute yourself and go for it if you feel like it.
Well, I'm happy to jump in. Can you hear me?
Yeah, who's speaking? Yeah.
This is Heather with Zero-Waste Washington. So one major problem is if you use Idealist, you get inundated with a ton of applicants that are not relevant to the job listing. And Idealist is good in other ways, but it seems like that's a major challenge.
Yeah, so are you struggling with like spending the extra time like filtering through these candidates that really aren't a good fit?
What I meant was Indeed. Sorry, Indeed.
Oh, Indeed. Okay. I mean, Indeed definitely has some tools that you can put in place, like job screening questions and other things. I don't know if you've explored any of those, but you can force candidates to be able to answer a few quizzes, and that they make some basic requirements before they actually get to apply. So maybe looking into some of those, if you're getting like a lot of candidates and just finding that they're not good matches, maybe consider using some of those screening tools that they have available on that one. All right, so I'll start kind of here at the top with recruiting activities. So first one is just really writing great job descriptions. So being able to illustrate and personalize the tone of your workplace, and including the clear details about what's required in the job, and photographs and videos if possible. Also consider using an applicant tracking system. I think that Indeed, for example, functions as an applicant tracking system, but if you're not using Indeed, at least having some mechanism for tracking people who are applying, whether you use a spreadsheet or whether you maybe you're payroll company has an integrated applicant tracking system. But when you get your ads out there, this is when you really want to be paying attention and not getting them lost in your email account. I've seen that happen a lot where people will take the effort and time to post a job and then don't see when applications are coming in. So being able to use some sort of thoughtful applicant tracking system is good, good practice. Also advertising your open positions far and wide. So it could be that you post the job online somewhere, and then you're also making sure and telling your employees about the position, using social media to post about it, reaching out to other networks. Andrea, I don't know if Seattle Good Business Network has a job board or posts about jobs through Mobilize, but really reaching out to the other connections that you have in the industry to try to get the word out about jobs is important to be able to stand out. I think there's a very competitive job market right now. And then a lot of times, people who have retail storefronts miss one of the most basic things, which is putting a now hiring sign up in the front of the restaurant or whatever the business is. So yeah, I think, trying to be creative about where you would be posting. Andrea, do you guys have one?
I was just gonna say, we offer members and partners the ability to send us your job description and a link to somewhere it lives online, and we can put it in our newsletter. So that goes out to about 12,000 people in the area. And it's really, people that are committed to supporting small businesses, so very much values aligned. I think that's what I hear a lot is people can advertise far and wide, but how do you find the right platforms that are values aligned? That can be a little bit harder.
For sure. Also, I don't know if you're at your company, you guys hire college students, for example, but a lot of the colleges have their own job boards where you can get the word out to students about your positions, but also looking to see what local colleges have. And then recruiting fairs as well can definitely be a good avenue to take, especially if you have to hire multiple positions. I don't think I would probably go to a recruiting fair if I was only looking for one person, but sometimes some companies seasonally need to hire 4 or 5 people or more. So advertising to, open positions in that way. And then making it really easy to apply for a job. So I'm going to just show you as an example on my Heartbeat Organic Superfoods Cafe. So this is my restaurant, and we have this careers page that people can go to. I'm going to play this video in a second for you, but basically we have a little video interview recruiting tool. But we have this button where it just really is calling for people to apply. So making that button easy to find. And then you can talk about like, what do we do, our mission, our values, posting videos so people can kind of get a sense of what it's like. Working at our company is been one of those fun things we can do. Having another apply button. I want to show you this this video. I don't know if I'm sharing my screen in a way where the sound will play. Andrea, tell me if the sound plays when I hit this. Okay, so I'm just going to show you this quick little video. This was one that we made just right inside of Canva. So this was just, we basically did a Zoom interview where we interviewed the hiring manager for a position. And then we imported that video to Canva and just did this quick little video. I'm not going to show the whole thing because it's almost 5 minutes, but I'll just show you about 1 minute so you can just get a feeling for it.
Hi, Tony. How's it going?
Hi, Ashley. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for asking. So I'm excited to chat with you today. You work at Heartbeat Cafe. I used to work at Heartbeat Cafe 10 years ago with the owner, Monica. I was chatting with her. She told me she had some open roles, so we thought it might be cool to interview some different team members and get a feel for what you're looking for when you're actually going to be hiring, and also what your experience has been like as you've worked for the team. So first of all, how long have you been at Heartbeat Cafe?
Well, I've been with Heartbeat for
So that gives you a sense of it. I'm not gonna go too much into it, but video content is so important right now with the hiring, like, or with the way social media is right now to get people to even click on you to watch, watch a video or see an image. So if you can try to interview your hiring manager about what they're looking for, I know that this video got tons of hits on it, which resulted in us getting applicants and then finding someone for the position that we're looking for. But that was like a super low investment way of doing something different. That was kind of fun to do too. Because Ashley and Tony were in different locations, we basically just went on Zoom and hit record and then recorded the interview, brought it in, added some sound and some graphics. All right, so I'm gonna go back to here. So I wanna talk a little bit about video screenings and interviews. So I definitely like to separate out interviews from screenings. Screenings, I think if you can do them on video, it's great because you can really get a sense of someone. But I think even if it's just on the phone, it's a great idea to do prior to inviting someone in for an interview. So the types of things that I'm focusing on the screening are number one, does the person, do they know what the job is, right? Do they understand what they would be doing if they were offered the job, right? And they can work for you. Number two, schedule and pay. Number three, pay. I can't tell you how many people I've seen just waste their own time and waste the time of the candidates by not even just bringing up the basics of like, when would this person be working and how much would they be making? And you can, it's okay to say pay in a range, depending on experience, but I think the biggest questions that I like to get out of the way before someone's even shown up for the interview is do they know where they're going, what they're going to be doing, and when I need them, and is there a potential good match on compensation? And then also on screenings, I like to ask just a few questions about their experience, especially if it's a position where they need to have some experience. I try to keep pre-interviews to 15 to 20 minutes. Doesn't have to be long, but that's certainly just saved me so much time from having people come in, maybe spending an hour on the bus, getting here, taking an hour on site, and the time of my manager just to find out that, oh, they're not available the days that we would need someone. So if you can do those video screenings, great. There's lots of options for doing video screenings. You can set up a free Zoom account. You can do FaceTime. Even people who don't have iPhones can do FaceTime. There's a way to create a link through like an iPhone. I think Android phones have, I'm not sure if it's Google Duo, if that's still a thing, or one of the other things like Google Meet. And then, so once you've done the screening, then I would say it's time to, if everything sounds good, invite them in for an interview. Don't wait too long. If you feel like they're potentially a good fit, like right at the end of the call, be like, I'd love to meet you. Let's talk about schedules. Would you like to come in for an interview? If coming in means you have a building where your facility is, great. If you don't have like an office or a restaurant or a building that they go to, even meeting at a coffee shop. So just getting that chance to meet them in person is fantastic. If the person's coming to a position where they can shadow someone doing that position for a little bit, that's always even, I like doing that a lot. I think it's even better. So in the example of my restaurant, mostly my in-persons are anywhere from 90 minutes to 2 hours because I like to have them actually go in the kitchen and experience what's going on in the restaurant, so that they can kind of shadow someone and really get a good feeling for, what it's like working there. I think that in circumstances where I've done that, I think about 20% of the people take themselves out of the process just because once they got to see it, they saw that it didn't match their idea of it. So any opportunities where you can weed people out of that process early on is good. So if you can do like that working interview. Another example might be at a farmer's market. Maybe you're interviewing someone to be at a farmer's market booth. You could invite them to come to the market, check out the booth, see what it's like. So if you have any questions about how that might apply in your circumstance, like feel free to ask. I think I'm going to pause right here before I keep going and just see if there are any questions.
Monica, that shadowing time would be unpaid. It's basically a part of an interview process.
It's part of the interview process, yeah. A lot of restaurants have these, they call them a stage, and they're usually day long. So this would be more like fancier restaurants who might have a stage, but that's kind of something that's happened in the past. Is that's an example of an industry where it's very common to have a stage.
Anyone has any questions, they can just take themselves off mute or pop it into chat.
Okay, I'm not hearing any, so we'll keep going. Next item in here is, well, actually, I want to say a few more things about interviews. I highly recommend that you have a set of interview questions pre-written out. So it helps you to really reduce bias when you are asking the candidates relatively the same questions, because you want to give people the chance so you can compare how one person answered to another. Of course, you need to be able to go with the flow with the interview at the same time. So if someone goes down a certain path, you want to be able to ask follow-up questions going down that path that the candidate's going. But by having your questions pre-written out, it kind of gives you a place to recenter back to. And also so you can do a lot of comparisons between one candidate and another. And then it's ensuring the right fit. There's no such thing as like the right fit for everybody, but just the right fit for your company. So do they align with your mission, your vision, your values? Does the schedule actually work for you that they're available for? A lot of times I've seen companies compromise on pay or on scheduling or on skills just because they get enamored by some aspect of the candidate, but then they're really like stepping over the fact that, oh, the schedule is really not what we need. So just making sure that you're thinking about all these things, and as much as you like the person, making sure that the basics are there is really important. And then making a job offer. So making a job offer, I would say you also don't want to wait very long, especially in the job market right now. So if you've completed all your interviews that you're doing, and you have identified someone that you would like to hire, like make the offer right away. If you're on your last day of interviews and the last person walked out, and that's, or the last person you just finished an interview with, and that's the person you want to hire, like letting them know, hey, you know, I've really enjoyed our time together and I would like to extend the job offer to you. Or if you need to go talk with your, you know, business partner or a manager or someone else about them, just let the person know, like, we'll be able to get back to you tomorrow, or we'll get back to you this weekend, but making sure that you're letting the person know when you're going to get back to them. Because people are, it's very easy for people, when you're using like Indeed, for example, it's extremely easy for people to apply for jobs, right? And they might be applying for like 20 jobs in one day. They just apply. And they may have 2 or 3 other interviews lined up. So you don't want to lose someone just because you waited too long to actually talk to them. The way that I do job offers is generally verbal at first. So sometimes they may be in front of me, sometimes they've already left and I'm calling them, but I'll usually do a verbal job interview first. And on that verbal job offer, it's like, hey, we love meeting you. You seem like a great fit for this position. What did you think of your, you know, your in-person working interview? Or what did you think when you came in? Are you still interested? Okay, great. Well, we want to make you the job offer. Then you want to confirm pay right on the phone. You know, we're offering you $25 an hour, or we're offering you 56,000 a year, or whatever it is. And also I just want to confirm what your working schedule would be. So just make a few, have a conversation where you're going over a few of the basics to reinforce that the compensation is what you guys talked about, that the schedule is what you guys talked about, and let them know that you're going to follow up with a written offer. So for a lot of candidates, getting a written offer is kind of makes them feel like this is official. And so if you have a system like a payroll system such as Gusto or Paycor, there's some others that have built-in job offer templates, like use them. If you don't have a job offer template and you want one, at the end of this, there's a place where you can get in touch with me. I'm happy to send you one just so you have something. And I would also say we just need to think about references too. So if it's someone who's known to you and you don't feel you need to get a reference on them, great, you can skip that. If it is a kind of a stranger, right? Somebody that you have never met before, didn't come from a personal referral, you may consider checking job references. I don't think that you have to wait to check job references before making an offer, but if you haven't checked references, you might let them know it's contingent on successfully passing, your reference checks. In some cases, you might be doing background checks or drug screenings. So let them know what their job offer is contingent on if you are doing that stuff prior to, or if you're going to do it after the job offer itself. Any questions on that?
And I just want to note a couple new people just joined us, so
Okay.
we might just recap where we're at and where we're going.
Oh, sure. We're talking about the employee life cycle, and we are at the stage where we're talking about recruiting. And prior to this, we talked about strategy and attracting employees to the company. Andrea will be sending out a video after this with a copy of all the slides, and a copy of the video, so you can go back and watch the earlier part. All right. So I want to talk a little bit more about advertising and screening stuff. So some examples of websites here that could be helpful are, someone mentioned Indeed. That's certainly a great site to find people. LinkedIn, Poached, Craigslist, etc. I find that a lot of what might be considered like non-professionals, like non-office type jobs, those folks may not be using LinkedIn quite as much, but a huge percentage of the workforce is on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is a good place to post. Poached is a local Seattle, well, they have an office in Seattle. It's all like food service focused. So it's a food service focused job board. A lot of people still find work on Craigslist. So these are some good options. If you have Gusto as a payroll provider, you actually can, they have a syndication where when you post your job, you can have it pushed out to 100 free job boards. So that's kind of a neat tool to use. We talked about employees and employee referrals. If you're posting jobs where you could be promoting one of your existing staff members, that's a great place to start. I don't think that you have to exclusively post jobs when you have promotion type things available internally, but certainly don't forget about your current employees when posting a job, because some of them may just be really waiting for the right opportunity to apply for promotion. You can also offer employee incentives, for example, $300 recruitment bonus if somebody refers a friend or someone that they know who you then hire. And you can put some parameters around that, like you can say, once this new employee has been with us for 90 days, you would get the incentive bonus, or 6 months, you can kind of decide what you want to do there. Make sure you're checking applicants daily. I find when I'm doing recruiting that if I let about 48 hours go by, it's too late. They've already moved on. So people are generally, unless they're like specifically reaching out to your company because they want to work for you specifically, you know, 2 days is a long time. So make sure that you're checking on new applicants daily and reaching back out the same day. Personally, I've found that when responding to jobs from Indeed, I've had a lot of success replying in the evenings versus daytime replies. I'm not sure if it's because they're at work and they're not, you know, checking Indeed during the day, but evening seems to be a really good time to reply and get people on the hook for doing a screening. A few things I want to say about job screenings. We talked about phone and video. It is generally okay to text candidates to invite them to a job screening. People under, I don't know, I'm gonna make, you know, maybe under about 40 don't often answer their phone if they don't recognize the phone number of who's calling. So texting and just being like, hey, this is Monica from Heartbeat. I'm just checking in. I saw your application. I'm interested in talking with you. Are you free tomorrow at 6? So whatever you want to say to get them to agree to a time to talk is good. And then also, if you're screening a lot of candidates, make sure you keep records of your screening notes. There's been plenty of times where I have posted a job and I had a bunch of people interested in the position, and then I almost couldn't remember who said what because I didn't take good notes. So I've learned better now, and I always keep good records of the things that people say on screenings. Also, just language considerations, like, for example, if the person who's applying, maybe English isn't their first language, and if whether a translator might be needed, just be aware of, you know, what the language needs are for screenings. And then I have this little ghost on here because this is a phenomenon probably most of you have heard of, called ghosting. It used to be applied in the context of dating, where one person goes on a date and then ghosts the other person, meaning like they just never follow up or they don't write back. This happens so much in recruiting as well and jobs. So it happens at every stage in the process, like someone applies and then you reach out, you never hear from them. Someone schedules a screening, they don't show up. Someone schedules an interview, they don't show up. And then even they've gone through all that, they showed up to the interview and the screening, you offer them the job, they take it, and then they don't show up to their first day of work. So this is very, very common these days. And so sending out confirmations ahead of time is really, really helpful to reduce the amount of ghosting going on. So that just looks like, you know, let's say you set up a screening that's not for 2 days, maybe send them a text an hour before the screening. Hey, looking forward to talking to you in an hour. Let me know if anything changes. Just little confirmations along the process can help a lot with that. Okay, any questions here? Okay.
Monica, have you found
Yeah.
calendar invites help?
Yeah, to some degree. A lot of people I found don't check their email though. And
Yeah.
so it depends on how much they've actually integrated calendars into, like, for example, if they've set up their calendar on their phone, then it could help. Also with people who are used to working on a computer, it probably will help. But if it's someone who's not applying for jobs where they'd be sitting in front of a computer, even though they're like actively seeking jobs, I wouldn't assume that anybody's reading their email or checking their voicemail. That's another one. I like call, leave messages for people and then never hear back. And then, you know, I'll get a message like a week later. Oh, just checking back in. I haven't heard from you. I'm like, oh, I left you a message like a week ago. Like, oh, sorry, I forgot to check my voicemail. So if you do leave a message, I would follow up with a little text. Hey, it's Monica from Heartbeat. I left you a message. Please get back to me. You know, I don't know what it is, but emails and voicemails are tricky, can be tricky. All right. So setting you up for an interview success, make sure that you actually read their application and their resume and their cover letter if they submitted one. You want to give the candidate the impression that you're paying attention and that you are specifically excited about them. So make sure you actually do these things before the interview so you can prepare any questions. If someone other than you did the screening, then make sure you read the notes from the screening. So a lot of times people don't put everything that they have in their resume, all their job experience. I did some interviews this last fall for a company where there were certain deal breakers that the hiring manager had. And I found out during the screening that the candidate had that experience, but it didn't show up on their resume. So they actually canceled the interview with the person that I had screened because they didn't read my notes and they thought that they weren't qualified. So definitely make sure that you read screening notes if somebody else did that. If you're doing the interview with more than one person, make sure that you are talking with your interview partner about how you want the day to go. Whether that means one person's taking notes, one person's asking most of the questions, whether you're going back and forth with every other question, etc. Just have a good plan in place. And if you're having an interview in person on site, make sure that you let the staff that they may likely encounter know, we've got someone coming in for an interview today. Helps the staff maybe be a little extra welcoming. Because otherwise they may not know, is this person a vendor? Who is this person that's a visitor? Is it a friend? So just let them know, we're doing an interview today. And I did talk already about wearing standard interview questions. Okay. I want to talk a little bit about what you cannot and can ask in an interview. So it's illegal to ask candidate questions about their age or genetic information. I would say an exception to this would be if they need to meet legal requirements. So for example, if someone is being hired to work in a cannabis shop where you have to be 21, or perhaps in a bar where you have to be 18. So those are exceptions to that. You also cannot ask about birthplace, country of origin or citizenship, disability status, gender, sex or sexual orientation, marital status, family or pregnancy, race, color or ethnicity or religion. I'm gonna post in the chat a great link if anybody wants to grab that link. This is a great article about interview questions. Andrea, if you wouldn't mind copying that link and sending that out in the email as a follow-up as well. You can ask questions such as, are you eligible to work in the United States? So you can't ask about their country of origin or citizenship, but you can ask, are you eligible to work in the United States? You can't ask about disability, but you can ask, are you able to perform the essential functions of the job? A lot of times I've heard, like, when people are asking about marital status or family, it's because they're trying to assess, like, does this person have kids? Is this gonna like interfere with their ability to like work the hours? Just go straight to the question. Are you able to work the hours that are scheduled for this position? Do you have reliable transportation? So there's lots more of these kind of specific things in that article that I shared. This is just some examples. Any questions about that? Let's see, things to talk about during the interview. Of course, you want to learn all about the candidate. You want to determine how closely they match what you're looking for. So talk about all the things you can that you have time for. Share more about the position that they've applied for and talk about the company, the culture, and what makes a good employee. Show that you're passionate about what you do, share about your mission, and take good notes. I have a sample feedback form that I'm happy to share. Maybe we could send that out, Andrea, during the interview. I have kind of a standardized feedback form that I like to use that goes over things like first impressions, work experience, and availability. Whether you take my form and use it or just use it as a way to have some ideas for making your own, customize it however you want. When you wrap up an interview, make sure you thank them for their time, be present, be respectful, and let them know what the next steps are. This is really important. Let them know, for references, you might say, I'd like you to send me 3 professional references, name, email, and phone number, and how you know this person. Do you think you could send that to me later today? Or whether you let them know, we do background checks. Is there anything that you want to let me know that I could expect to have turn up on a background check? Or more interviews, like this is the first of 2 interviews. The next interview would be with this other department. You know, what's your schedule for, what's your availability for an interview next week? So just letting them know what to expect is good. After they've left, make sure you finish documenting notes from your interview. If there's somebody else on your team that you need to talk with and discuss the interview and feedback with the other staff member. And like I said, once you're ready to make the job offer, call them and make the job offer in a timely manner. And if you must reject them, then do so kindly and swiftly. So it's not cool to keep someone on the hook for many, many, many days if you've already decided you're not going to hire them. It's important that you let people know, you know, soon, so that they can move on and not continue this like wondering process. Oh, I wonder if I'm going to be hiring back when you've already decided not to. So make sure that you do that as well. It's okay to wait till the next day or, you know, maybe 2 days, but I wouldn't wait any longer than that. Okay, we're going to move on to onboarding. Onboarding, I said, is the things that you do once you've decided you're going to make the job offer. So we did talk about this first step of onboarding, which is actually doing the job offer, verbal then written. Checking references and running background checks. So for checking references, what you kind of need to know about this is employers are not supposed to disclose anything beyond confirming the dates that they work for you and what their job title was. So if you get a savvy employer who knows that, then you may not get much out of them. However, you can ask anything you want. You just may not get answers. But I like to ask questions about reliability, about how they get along with others. If there's any questions I have about just their ability to do the actual job that are relevant, I like to ask questions about that. And ultimately, you know, if you ask for 3 professional references and you're able to get a hold of 2 of them, I call that, you know, good success. It can really help if you ask the candidate to tell the person that so-and-so is going to be calling so that they can get back to you. I also find that texting references is very effective. So in that, I just send a text. Hi, it's Monica from Heartbeat. Cole Smith applied for a job. He said he used to work with you. Are you available to chat? I'm just checking a reference. It's 5 o'clock good. So that's kind of the process for checking references. Also, again, I'm big on note taking. So take notes on what they say so that you can remember who said what about whom. Background checks. I think background checks are good when it's relevant to the job that's being applied for. So if you've got someone who's going to be doing a lot of cash handling, for example, it's very appropriate to run a background check because you'd be looking for things such as theft or fraud on their background. If somebody's applying for a job that has a lot of cash handling required and you run their background check and you see a DUI on there that was 7 years old, like that's not really relevant to what they're doing unless they're also driving a delivery van. So you want to just keep in mind that when you run a background check, the things that you're looking for should be relevant to the position that they're applying for. If someone's applying for a driver position, I would definitely want to run their background and their driving record. And I would be looking for anything to be concerned with regards to that. So if you don't have any actual deal breakers for the position that's being hired for, save the money and, don't lose a good candidate because of something that is irrelevant to what they're doing. And then with regards to background checks, I want to recommend this company if you're considering doing background checks, just because I think they've done a really good job for me. It's called Imperative. And they are the kind of company where you actually get to talk to like a real person who like knows you because you've worked with them, and you get an actual account manager who helps you. This is really different than kind of an impersonal background check company where you just go on and, you know, fill out a little form and then get information that you have no idea if what they've checked, you know, where that information came from. With Imperative, you actually get someone who's doing your process with you and can keep you up to date. Like, oh, we're waiting to hear back from Texas because this person needs to live in Texas, or, oh, we found that they also lived in Florida, so we're checking the Florida records. So I like to use a company like Imperative that has real people. Not just like a technology company. I guess that's the difference I'm distinguishing here. And collecting signed job offer. So again, if you're using a tool like Gusto or another payroll provider and they do job offers, they should have a spot to do e-signatures. If you're not using a system like that and you're just like sending out an email with a PDF of a job offer, you can just have them, if maybe they don't have a printer or whatnot, that's fine. Just have them reply, I accept the job offer. And then when they come in person for their first day, you can have them actually sign it. All right, so setting up an employee in your system. So every company has different systems. And some companies have very few actual like technology systems. Some people have a lot. So I say follow a checklist. So whatever it means for you when you hire a new person, whatever the tasks are that you have to do, follow a checklist. This will really help make sure that you're not missing steps. It'll help be a situation where you can pass on the onboarding to another person. And some examples of systems that you may have to add an employee to might be a payroll system or a communication system or an attendance system. And then the paperwork would be things like a W-4 or an I-9. Some payroll companies collect that information automatically or generate those automatically. Also, when you hire, you have to do what's called a new hire report to Washington State Department of DSHS for child support. Again, some payroll companies do that automatically. Is anybody on this call in a situation where you don't yet have an employee and you know that you're going to have an employee soon, like in the next 90 days? If so, I'll just talk a little bit more about what accounts you need to open up with the state. No. Okay, I'm gonna keep going on. Well, let me pause here. Does anybody have any questions? Oops, I'm going the wrong way. Does anybody have any questions about onboarding?
What's the kind of time frame that you want to do all of this onboarding?
For me, it depends on how soon the person's starting. So I've had plenty of times where I've hired someone and they've literally started like the next day. So just depending on how quickly they're starting. If I have time to, like, let's say they're not starting for 2 weeks, then I usually get the job offer done right away. So it's, you know, same day that they've agreed verbally, I want to get the job offer out like that afternoon or that evening. As far as adding them to the systems, you know, if they're not starting for 2 weeks, you know, it's less imperative to do it right away. But if they're coming in tomorrow and need to be able to clock in, then you have to do it right away. So it just depends on the position and the timeliness of all of it. Another thing I don't have on this slideshow, but I also like to do a new employee orientation. So at a new employee orientation, it's essentially, for my company and most of the companies I work for, it's like a 2-hour event. So, and you can do it with, if you're only hiring 1 employee or if you have 3 people that are all starting the same day, that doesn't really matter. The thing that we go over at an employee orientation will be everything from talking about our mission, our vision, logistical, just kind of, not logistical, that's the wrong word, service information. So what are all the things that we sell as a company, or what are the services our customers can buy. So just making sure that the employee knows like all the things about what the business that you're in is and what the possibilities are there. Also, I do like to go over here the different systems that we use. So if someone's using, for example, maybe a company uses Slack for communications, at that orientation, I make sure they've got Slack installed. They know how to use it. They know how to navigate it. So whatever those systems are that someone's using, we actually set those up during the orientation, make sure they're good to go. Also, if there's any outstanding paperwork, the W-4, I-9, getting to know you form, whatever the paperwork is of your company. Also, at an orientation, I like to go over a lot of the important basics. When's payday? What do people need to wear to work? Where do you park? So just logistical details that will help someone be able to work there. Questions about pay, schedules, and what to wear at work are often the most important questions someone wants to understand on day one, so that they just can put that out of their mind and just be able to focus on learning. So anything that could be a distraction for them if they haven't found out the information yet, even things like, here's your employee handbook, here's how you're going to access your employee handbook, so they can read all that on their own. Also, I like to cover essential policies of the company. So this might be like sexual harassment policy, or how do I call out, or am I allowed on my phone at work? So figuring out, like, from your employee handbook, what are the essential policies that you want to make sure you cover with them is a good idea to do during the orientation. And then also if there is a physical facility, doing a tour during that day. So for me at Heartbeat, I tend to do the orientation separate from their first actual training day, just because orientation can be like a lot of information at once. So 2 hours of dense information coupled with like an hour-long detailed tour is really all that mentally a lot of people can handle on their first day. And then they come in the next day and start training. Oh, and also at the orientation, I go over the training plan, because people often want to know, like, what should I expect? How long is training going to take? What's the plan for that? So I'd like to go over the training plan too. Okay, any questions about new employee orientations or onboarding? We'll move on. Any questions, Andrea? No, okay. All right, learning and development. Okay, so training. So one of the things when you're doing training is you can give the employee a written training schedule if needed, so that they can kind of see, I think seeing the visual of, you know, how many days and how those days might be broken out is helpful for some employees. I try to do things that I found are helpful for some people, even knowing that not everybody cares, because maybe only 50% of people care about getting a training schedule, but for the people who do care, that's an extra step you can do that shows you're organized and that you're thoughtful. Sometimes there may be some training materials that you need to send them. I think that for most companies, you probably don't need to send training material ahead of their first day. But if there is material that you want them to get familiar with early on, I would send them after, during the new employee orientation, or getting that to them as soon as possible. In the example of a restaurant, it might be the employee handbook and it might be a copy of the menu. Maybe it could be asking them to look over your website and become familiar with how to order. For Seattle Good Business Network, it might be learning about all the different programs that they offer. That would be probably an important thing for a new person to learn. And if you have any specialized equipment or software, you can certainly provide them with like YouTube videos on how to use that software. If it's something that you don't spend a lot of time on during training, If it's certain, if you have a kitchen, like, again, and keep going back to restaurants just because I have so much experience in that area, I would be sending them training materials that included kitchen safety videos, like how to properly lift, how to not burn yourself, how to not cut yourself. So just some like safety training stuff. Make sure that when someone's there on their first day that they get to meet everybody and that you actually take the time to introduce them to people, so that they feel welcome. Like part of them really starting to get into the culture of the company is the people, right? So you want them to feel very, very, very welcomed right from the beginning. So at some companies, they do all kinds of different stuff to welcome someone. Maybe they buy lunch that day. Maybe they have a cake. Maybe they decorate their desk if they have a desk, or whatever it is. Just be thoughtful. Maybe it's they give them flowers or a welcome card, or maybe it's getting them a technology pack if you actually have a company where you get to like buy someone a laptop and, you know, a monitor. It's like going over that stuff on the first day. So all these things can help somebody really feel welcomed. If you have a remote employee, it could be sending over a little welcome package with some swag, right? Some like company t-shirts, sweatshirts, candy, whatever it is. And the written employee handbook too. Mentioned that a couple times, but this is something that is really helpful for a lot of people. Training is ongoing and forever when you're committed to continuous improvement. So just realize that there are special, like there is a special time frame when you first hire someone where you think a lot about training and getting them ready, but training really never ends. So I hear a lot of business owners who get frustrated because they feel like, oh, so-and-so, they should know this already. Well, they don't. So you may have to repeat something 10 times before it sticks, and that's okay. So if you have somebody that generally is a really good fit for your culture, be patient with them so they can learn. All right. Building a culture of continuous improvement. So being able to normalize experimentation and failure, I think, is a way, a very important step to building a culture of continuous improvement. So if people don't get the opportunity to experiment, then things may not improve. It's oftentimes experimentation that helps further the company's business. There's a saying that I heard last year, and I've really thought a lot about this. If people don't learn to fail, they will fail to learn, and then your company will fail to innovate. I think that that's very true. So also part of the building a continuous improvement culture is by having people stop and fix what's bugging them. So it could be, you know, like in my restaurant, every time someone has to walk across the kitchen to go get something, you know, they might get irritated. So it's like, just stop and relocate that thing so that it's within reaching distance. So that's a good place. Is like, is something bugging you about this task that you have to do? Well, stop doing it the way that's irritating you and fix it, and then it helps to build continuous improvement. So I think being able to build in one thing every day that's going to make things better is really helpful. I want to give you a little example of this. You guys know the QR codes, little codes you can scan. They have them on restaurant menus everywhere. Okay, so I was getting driven cuckoo because at my restaurant, the drive sockets for the blender were constantly going out. And I felt like every time the drive socket would go out, they're calling me to come fix it. And it's something that's so easy to fix. So I went on YouTube and I just found a little video. It's like 2 minutes long on how to change out the drive socket. I made a QR code that links to that video, and I bought a label printer that prints QR codes. and I made a little label with the QR code and it says how to change a drive socket. And I stuck it to the blender, and that was like 8 months ago, and they've never called me again to ask me how to fix a drive, how to change a drive socket. So I think people having access to the tools and resources at their disposal will help. So I had to stop and fix what was bugging me, which is that people kept asking me the same thing over and over again. And it took me like 2 minutes to make the QR code and print it, and I did it, and then it never happened again. This is a little example. There's a saying that wherever somebody has a question, the answer should be right there. So you want to think about where someone's coming up with the question, and then how can we put the answer where the question's happening. That's a really good tip. Okay. Any questions about this before we move on? Okay. All right. I want to talk a little bit about harassment training. So everybody employed at your company has a right to work in an environment free of discrimination and harassment. And so I believe that you should commit to providing a workplace that's free from discrimination in all forms, which includes harassment based on race, color, religion, gender, sexual orientation, national origin, age, genetic information, disability, gender identity, veteran status, or any other status or characteristic that is protected by local, state, and federal laws. And take seriously your obligation to maintain a workplace that's free of harassment and discrimination. When there are violations of this policy, they should not be tolerated. So the place or I guess the thing to think about is that harassment is harassment if someone is experiencing whatever the thing is as harassment. So someone could make a comment to someone else saying, oh, you look really nice today. Maybe the person saying that didn't mean anything, didn't intend to harass somebody. But if the person receiving that comment is creeped out by that, they've just been harassed. So this is important to remember. I say, keep it professional. Don't talk about people's bodies, what they look like. Don't touch people. A lot of people don't like to be touched. So you should be in a something that you as an employer can help to pass down to your employees to reinforce how to have a professional work environment. If you don't have a sexual harassment policy, then you can certainly get one from the internet. There's a lot of great policies out there. If you have Gusto, and I keep saying Gusto because that's one of the best small business payroll platforms, there is an integrated harassment training policy planned through Gusto, which is called Gusto Learning. But Gusto, it's just a referral link essentially with Easy Llama. So Easy Llama, I'm going to open this. Easy Llama has these great training experiences. The cost of the Easy Llama platform is about $20 per person to take this class. It's about a 50-minute class where they show scenarios and then have the person answer questions to help make sure that they understand that. If they don't answer the question correctly, it will correct them and explain more about why the answer that is the correct one is the correct one. And then when the class is over, they get a certificate that's valid for 2 years. So that's something that you don't need a special payroll platform to be able to get. You can just get easyllama.com. Any questions about harassment before I move on? All right. Let's talk a little bit about rewards and recognition. Okay. So rewards and recognition don't have to be expensive or complicated. The most important thing that you could do when you're considering rewards and recognition program is really understanding from your employees what motivates them and what they like. So what appeals to them? What do they want to see in a rewards program? I think that leaders who institute incentive programs for the right reasons, like to express gratitude for their efforts or to show support, is great. And really understanding your employees is essential to having an effective program. So, for example, praise, for some people, they might like public praise. They like, when you've acknowledged them in front of their coworkers. Other people don't like that. Some people are motivated by financial incentives, like $50 bonus or a gift card. Other employees, take it or leave it. Some people are more motivated by getting a day off. So it's really important to understand the employee to be effective at this. And so many companies just implement blanket programs without consideration for what their actual employees are interested in. So that's one way that you can go wrong. It's probably one of the only ways you can go wrong with rewards and recognition, is just not taking the time to understand your employees. I know that these types of gestures might seem small, but they are one way of really helping motivate and convey, one of the most powerful sentiments, which is thank you. Let's talk a little bit about benefits. So for many employees, benefits are of utmost importance, and they're not going to go work for an employer who doesn't have benefits. But that's not everyone. A lot of people who have benefits through their spouse's company. Also, some people may have certain benefits through their spouse's company and not others. So what I want to do here is I just really want to go over first the ones that are required by law, and then ones that are not required by law, but would be the most expected, and then other ones. So required by law is sick time, 1 hour per 40 hours worked. Most payroll companies have tracking systems in place. So when you process payroll, it automatically applies the accurate amount of sick time. And if you are not using a payroll system and processing payroll some other way, then this is easy to calculate. You just take the number of hours worked, divide by 40, and then that will be the amount of sick time that you need to apply for that pay period. Workers' compensation insurance. This is through the Department of Labor and Industries. So this is the coverage that makes it so that if someone gets injured on the job, that they're taken care of. Paid family medical leave insurance is a new thing in Washington State. This functions similarly to unemployment insurance, which is that if there's a period of time where someone's unable to work due to one of the approved medical situations, whether it's for them or a person they're caring for, it provides them with income during that time. And then, unemployment insurance. So this is so that if somebody leaves the company through no fault of their own, that they are covered with unemployment insurance. And then benefits that are not required by law, but are expected by most people, if you can afford it, would be paid time off, medical, and dental and vision insurance. These are kind of the essentials. Paid time off policies can be extremely different from company to company. So the considerations with building a time off policy would be things like, how much time does someone accrue working at your company? And does that change the longer they work for you? So a company might have a policy that says your first year, you get 5 days, starting on year 3, you get 10 days, etc. So when you build your time off policy, you want to think about the accrual rate. Another thing you want to think about is when can they start accruing time off and when can they start using time off? So at my company, people can start accruing time off right away, but they can't start using it till they've been with us for 6 months. Another consideration are caps. Is there a time off cap that they're allowed to have on their account? So, you know, maybe 120 hours would be an example of a cap. And then when they hit that cap, that means they stop accruing. They can keep working, but they're not going to get any more time. Another consideration is rollover. So when the year's over, how much of that can be rolled over? And then probably another important consideration is what happens when they leave. So, do they get to take their unpaid time, their unused paid time off with them? Is it use it or lose it? Do they get half? I think most commonly, sick time is not cashed out when someone leaves, but paid time off is often cashed out when someone leaves. And then one other consideration with paid time off is, do they accrue it as they work, or is it a bucket of time that they get all at once? So for example, a company might have it where it matches their sick time. They get 1 hour for 40 hours worked, which is equivalent to about 6 days a year. Another company might say every year at January 1st, everybody gets the bucket of hours. So just when does it get issued? Okay, medical. So medical plans, first of all, if you are thinking about getting benefits, you need to have a good broker. Benefits brokers don't cost you any money. They get compensated by the carriers, so there's no reason not to have a good benefits broker. If you have a company like Gusto, they have in-house brokers who can help you and integrate your benefits with your payroll system. If there's an in-house broker at your payroll company, that's highly recommended. There are a lot of steps that have to happen, especially to ensure accurate deductions. So if you can integrate it with payroll, that's always the preference. Separately, if your payroll company doesn't have an in-house benefits broker, I'm just gonna flat out recommend OneDigital, because OneDigital is all things benefits, and they are experts. They have local offices here, and you get really, really good customer service from OneDigital. So this is a great benefits broker I'd like to recommend. And when you're choosing a medical plan, I recommend that you choose multiple options that your employees could choose from. So the main differences to know about HMO and PPO plans are that HMO plans, so for example, Kaiser Permanente has an HMO plan, and an HMO plan means that they could only go to Kaiser doctors if they have the HMO option. But Kaiser also has a PPO option. PPO is where people can go to any doctor. So carriers might have both options, HMO and PPO. HMOs will typically save money on deductibles and things like co-pays. They're usually cheaper deductibles, lower co-pays, because it's kind of an in-house solution. And then PPOs oftentimes might have higher deductibles, higher co-pays, etc. But people have more options with the PPO. So there are benefits to both. And if you choose your benefits plans in a way where you give employees options, then the employee can choose whether they want the PPO or the HMO option. And then you'll usually have the option to choose tiered plans. Something like a bronze would have a higher deductible. Gold would have the lowest deductible. So a bronze plan, for example, might have a deductible of $6,000 a year. But it has very low premiums that get paid monthly. Like maybe a bronze plan might be maybe $330 a month, where the employee pays, a portion of it and you pay a portion of it. A gold plan would be something with a very low deductible, like maybe a $600 a year deductible. but the premium might be like $500. So, and then silver is going to be a middle of the road. So I like to design benefit plans with all these things in mind and ultimately give the employee the option which one they want. One good strategy for that is for the company to set what the amount is that they're willing to cover. So for example, one of my clients pays $330 a year. And then the employee can pick any of the plans that they want from the list. The employer has a fixed amount. They know, okay, an employee is it's gonna cost $330 a year to our company. The employee pays a difference. So that is one strategy where you can kind of limit your exposure as a company to how much you're paying for while giving the employee the options. And then lastly, dental and vision insurance. These benefits are relatively inexpensive. Dental insurance is usually like $45 a month. And oftentimes companies will even have the group plan, but not pay for it. So that would look like forming the group plan. It's going to help the employee get better rates on dental than they could get on their own. But if the company's not actually going to pay for it and the employee pays for it, you know, that's an option. If you can cover it as the employer, even better. Vision is even cheaper. Vision insurance is like $6.66 a month, for example. So dental and vision tend to be pretty low cost options that you can add. 401k is a kind of retirement plan, and many payroll systems like Gusto have integrated 401k options. A popular one that I like to tell people about is called Guideline. Guideline integrates with Gusto. 401k options don't typically have very steep management fees. So for example, it might cost something like, you know, $6 per user per month to have someone on a benefits plan, like a 401k plan. There's different kinds of 401k plans. Some examples of plans might be where you contribute 3%, you know, so someone might set aside, let's see, you covered 3% of their paycheck, or you pay 3% of their paycheck, or it could be 4% or 5%. So you get to decide what percentage you're going to contribute and match it at 100%. So in an example where an employee sets aside, let's say 4% of their paycheck, you agree to match it up to 100%. And then they're able to save even more. They could save like up to 10%, but you're only matching that first 4%. So that's an option, 401k. Guideline also has ways to do like profit sharing plans that are pretty neat and well designed. So check that out. Life insurance, there is group and voluntary life insurance plans. This is another one that, especially since COVID, I've seen a lot more companies wanting to do. We're getting pretty low on time, so I'm not going to spend any more time on these other than to talk about the employee assistance program. Employee assistance programs are, I feel, the best, most least expensive benefit you could offer. An example of an employee assistance program that we have at Heartbeat is called First Choice. And with First Choice, our employees can get free counseling. They can go up to 3 times per issue that's happening. So let's say maybe someone passes away and they're getting some bereavement counseling. They can go 3 times. And then next month, then they're having issues with their spouse and they need couples counseling. They can go 3 times for that. And then next month they're having anxiety and they want to go to counseling for that. So they can go up to 3 times per issue. The entire staff is covered for counseling, and it only costs us $52 a month. And there are also other benefits like legal counseling. If someone's getting evicted or something, they can get advice from a lawyer. There's financial resources in there. So EAPs are really neat, inexpensive plans that can really benefit your employees. All right, just down to the last few minutes. Talent management, here's my tips on managing employees. Number 1, have a service mindset. Your employees are your customers. So being able to treat them as such is one of the things that will help you be a good employer. Being a good listener. Listen to what your employees are saying and asking you and asking for and what they're trying to contribute. Number 3, recognize that everyone has different strengths and areas for growth. Your job is to identify those and to help them strengthen the areas. Number 4, set performance expectations early on and bring up issues early on. Don't brush issues under the rug. And the last one is be direct, clear, and respectful. Also, having regular check-ins with your employees where you get a chance to meet with them without distractions. Just because you see someone every day or you guys have meetings every day where you're talking about kind of the transactional things with business doesn't mean you've been really having a check-in with them personally. So make sure you have check-ins where you actually get to talk with them, find out how they're doing. Next of all, finding out what matters to your employees and supporting them in reaching their goals. Periodically asking your employees for feedback about yourself as a manager. I think a great exercise is one called Stop, Start, Continue. That's where you talk to employees and you ask for feedback and you say, what am I doing that you'd like me to stop doing? What am I doing that you'd like me to continue doing? And what am I doing that you'd like, or what am I not doing that you'd like me to start doing? And these are really, really good ways to get really helpful input. And by the way, just because someone asks you to stop doing it is a good chance for you to have a conversation. Doesn't mean you're going to do it, but they might say, I'd like you to stop texting, or I'd like you to stop sending me emails at 8 o'clock at night. And then you can respond with, oh, I'm sorry, I've been disturbing you. I didn't realize that. Could I show you how to set up notifications that you can block out so you don't get messages from me at 8 o'clock at night, but I'm still free to send them at 8 o'clock at night. So it's just an example of, it's like a good starting conversation. Ask your employees why they stay. This is called a stay interview. So why they stay and what may cause them to consider leaving. This is called a stay interview. And this can be incorporated into one-on-ones or for career development conversations. I think that the harder the job market is and the harder it is for you to hire, the more important stay interviews are. Performance reviews. I think they vary from company to company, but some considerations are, one, who's driving the process, the employee or the manager. And that can go either way. And so employee-driven ones are where the employee initiates a review process whenever they think they're ready for feedback, promotion, or a raise. A manager-driven one is one where the manager initiates a review process on a particular schedule. And an HR supported process is, if you're lucky enough to have an HR person, you can have them be in charge of reminding you when it's time to have reviews. They provide you the forms and they support the overall process. And then lastly here, who should be included in providing feedback? So the two main ones is either a 360 review, which includes the supervisor, peers, and the employee. If the person's a manager, it might also include bottom-up feedback. And a more basic form of review is the supervisor to the employee. Andrea, it's 4:30. I think I'm gonna skip ahead to my conclusion slides, which is just showing people here if they would like to have a free consultation where we can talk more about human resources. Feel free to go to seattlebusinessconsultant.com or scan this QR code. We can talk about any of the stages of the employee life cycle that you'd like to talk about one-on-one that are relevant to your company. And I just want to thank everybody for your time and attention today. I love talking about HR, and Andrea will send out the slides that have a little bit more information in them as well. So
Thank you, Monica. Yeah, it definitely shows that you love the HR talk.
I really do. I really do. I'll just leave this up on the screen if you could, Andrea, just leave this up for a minute as people are leaving so that they can grab that if they'd like to. That would be great.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Yay.
Thank you.
And then can you stop the recording, Andrea?
Yeah, I was just looking for it. Here we go.